happens. That is an excellent question. I don't remember either.
Doesn't really matter, but
No.
sounds like my knees. That's already down, I guess. Oops, overly silly about that. Going up to the center. Come down.
That seems familiar.
Supposed to, not supposed to, there's a chance of rain at 7 or so tonight. I guess that's approaching pretty quick now.
Yes. You have about 33 minutes.
I was hoping to get the outside ring done, but at this point I'll be happy if I get the headlands done. Right. Haven't gotten any smoother under control.
I've forgotten how to brace myself. Oh, there's some flowers.
Huh.
Do you see them right there? You can see them right there. I don't know how to zoom with a GoPro. Just on the other side of the handrail, there's little tiny purple flowers.
I forgot how high this thing revs. 2600. What do you think? Around 25 is where we went, maybe?
I think somewhere.
Yeah, around 2000 on the header.
I think
That rings a bell.
it sounds familiar.
I'm gonna cut around the center.
Okay.
It's always that big, but like either I haven't forgotten the size, or I've forgotten the size of our windows, or nice chunky window.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's, yeah, I think we've forgotten the size of it, but it's also a very, very good sized.
Concept, brand new knives.
Yeah.
It is funny, brand new knives and go run them into the wheel track ends. That's funny. You actually are getting buds. If some of them are aluminum.
Yeah. That's good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's relative. It's, what do they say, the middle of the bud stage is the best all around for quantity and quality.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Good thinking. Good remembering.
just happened to see it.
Yeah, there's a pile of stuff right there. So this, I don't know how well it's shot. Those are little alfalfa beds right there. now. So anyway, we got the parts out of the way, so now it's just time to mow on. So here we go.
Did we look in there super close?
I thought we did.
No, in a minute.
We'll know in a minute.
Yeah, I'll try to get some of that.
Yeah.
That's all the way over there. Don't know why.
Yeah, apparently whatever these weeds are, Roundup doesn't kill it.
Or sprayer guy that you get from the corners.
Oh.
I think I can.
What's the matter?
We're going to do the inlet.
Oh. I don't know why I thought we did one outside row.
Oh, no. Usually start at the track. What I do.
Oh, that's right. I have forgotten how we do this. It looks like it's cutting really well, though. Oh. This is always where I get confused when I rake, too. How many rows down, like, on the ends there are. When you have to go back.
When you drive over them, it's
Yeah.
what it says. Yeah, break the straight ones, sorry. Straight ones, and it messes up the heads.
Yeah.
You can't see them.
I told myself this year I'm going to try to take a picture before I start raking so I know where they were when I go back to try and get them. And for whatever reason, the ones at the little pivot are the hardest for me, I feel like. I know we've only made one pass, but so far the bugs on top of the header are way less than they were last time we cut.
Was it those little green guys, or was it weird other bugs?
The last time we cut, it was those little aphid looking things, like the whole top of the header was just green with them. I don't see any of them now. But you can see something stain the leaves a little bit.
Yeah.
I just like watching the header push it down and eat it, yeah.
Sam took half a day off of work to continue mowing the next day. And as you can see, he had to keep stopping and clearing out the header because it just got clogged up with mud and the hay that had lodged and fallen down. And he had to move all the headlines by himself. So it was a pretty long and tedious process for him to just even get the outside rows mowed. And I think it took him pretty much until lunch to get like that outside tower, or the outside of the last tower, done. But it's coming along, so we'll just keep going with the process. I know the alfalfa's tall and it got a little bit wet last night because it rained, but those windrows are thick, and I think there's just been a lot that's been lodged and fallen down, and it looks like it's clogging up the header. And like I said, between gopher mounds and just wet, falling over hay, it's taken a long time to get around. It will be fun to see how it dries and if the weather cooperates, and it's supposed to be really nice for the next week, so hopefully that helps it dry out. There's a bit of a breeze right now, so maybe that'll help a little bit too. Right now it's just the cutting process, and it seems to be a little slow going, so stay tuned. Work, trying to figure out why things are so rattly and maybe not quite cutting the way that Sam thinks that they should. So we cleaned a bunch of mud off of the cutter bar surface under the knives and stuff, and around the, I think they're called turtles, those little head things that hold the knives. So we cleaned a bunch of dirt off that, and it sounds like it's getting smoother, but it's still checking some stuff out, so I don't know for sure what's going on or what we're looking at. Spin it! the best then.
Wow. That's horrible. Slowed down a little bit because it was still making noise before. Like
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Oh, the door's getting open. Thank you.
Next one there now. So, yay for self-fixing, self-healing.
Yay for Sam. So I'm delivering pizza into the middle of the field because I ordered pizza for my class today and this is leftover, so this is what we're having for dinner. So we're having field dinner.
Thank you, Brandy.
So this is the progress that has been made so far on the pulling out the trees. So we started, I don't remember where we started.
Just basically that stump. It's gonna
Oh.
go in a quarter of the way.
Yeah. Sorry, it's bouncy. We started over there, and he's made it to right there. So much better. That's cool. Yeah, so we still have all of that left to do. So that is what it looks like when the swather tries to get stuck. Luckily, it resisted the urge and didn't get stuck. Trying to get a better shot of the big, almost swather hole. There we go. That's a good shot right there. So we don't want to see that in the field. So good job, swather, for not staying there. So I don't know if you can see them very well, but there's probably 4 or 5 deer right up here by that haystack, but on our side of the field. Just hanging out, eating the fresh cut alfalfa. You're welcome. So we got the big pivot started yesterday, finished today. Got the little pivot opened and the outside, the outer ring done today. And now it is almost 9 o'clock, so we're gonna call it a day because the angle of the sun is making it really hard to see and there's a bunch of dirt that needs to be cleaned out of the header. So we're just gonna say this is it for today, and then hopefully we'll be able to get the little pivot finished up tomorrow. So stay tuned.
Got done greasing and tightening the teeth on the rake and going to change the oil on the little tractor and kind of service it. We've been carrying somebody's house around with us. It's great. Glad it didn't catch on fire. Getting the rake set up here. I was gonna get it all serviced and greased, and I don't know that there's a single grease getting on the thing, which is amusing, interesting. I don't know. Oh, I might have just. Okay, that makes me feel better. So there's at least zerks on the outers. On these guys, Guess you'll just have to take my word for it, but there's nothing down there. And nothing on that thing. So the pivot back here doesn't have any grease fittings at all. I guess they don't move as much as the wheels, so turns out I will grease it. I'll grease the wheels, check teeth, make sure none are missing. There's some that were sloppy. One of these, yeah. I probably could tighten those up before they fall off. Seems logical. And it looks like people have greased that in the past. It moves maybe a couple times per cutting. I don't know if I want grease all over myself and it for just that. And another surprise to me was the wheel hubs have no grease fittings. On the back or the front, like I just showed you on that other one. It didn't look if the pivot had any. It does not appear so. Check the front. Nope. I'll look a little closer, but it's kind of odd. Usually equipment like this has a decent amount of grease fittings to keep it alive. And of all the weird places, this pivot, again, that gets used, well, for us probably once a year. I don't know, I might fold it back up, I guess, to park it in between cuttings, but okay, I'll get those greased, and the fun part will be trying to remember settings and stuff, because that looks way too wide. That's about even with, no, maybe not. It's just cattywampus with the tractor. And it still is a giant space between those. So, I think that's everything. So grease it, check the pressure on the tires, because they need to be a little squishy to take up some of the jarring, bouncing gopher holes and wheel tracks. And my big tires are not squishy. Little car tires are nice and squishy. Which is funny, because I have nothing against the car tires on it, but the ones that are supposed to be on there are so much taller, bigger diameter, rides better. It's 3:30 and it's first day for raking. Figured it'd be fun to see the lights of the tractor from out here. I got my helpers. They're excited to run around and yell at things and maybe find some mice and such. But still loves the LEDs on the tractor. They do quite the job. See if the door wants to close. Oh, I guess you take the stuff out of the door and maybe it'll close better. Nope, nope it doesn't. Oh, handle. I have to fix the little handle. There's the inside latch piece gets stuck. Okay. Wonders of having a door on the little tractor. Anywho, we're all pretty much warmed up. We will start slow. Anyway, kind of weird to me with this rake. There's no anything to do. Just drive. Which is really kind of handy. No hydraulics or anything. It raises and lowers. I think we've got set up, but 90% of the time it stays lower. So, make sure months ago just to make sure I was up to where I needed to be. And I think we're pretty close. It's me weaving back and forth that's causing the mess more than anything. So I think we'll try a productive gear here. See how we do. The width of the windrow right there is the only other thing that I need to pay attention to. Make sure it's narrow enough that the big tractor will get over it to where we can get it to the feeder of the baler. So it might take 2 seconds to run back and make sure that's still okay. Can't decide if I want to spread it open or not. It catches all the windrow, but I have to pay attention more than I like. Okay, we'll go check the width and then probably switch to time lapse with earplugs in. Not earplugs, but earbuds. And listen to a book and drink coffee. I don't know, you guys probably can't see enough of anything to see, but if I can straddle it of all the weird ways of measuring in my head, that makes sense. I mean, that'll be fine. I don't know. Hey, now you can kind of see what we've made. So we're going to call it good. Dum-dums running around. Let's see if we see what the eyeballs are from. Well, they're not in the field now. But basically all of the wildlife that comes out and hunts at night. Into my dogs. Well, my dogs will run into them. Probably a bit more of their area at this point. was really uneventful, which probably is good. This is the fun part where we do dodging dirt flaps in the field. I should have got the other direction, it's way tighter, but figuring out where your edge of your rake runs is important so you don't hit fences or pumps.
So Sam said he did some filming in the dark, and I'm out here now raking the little pivot. So I've done the outside tower, and I'm on the last row. There's one odd row next to the wheel track on most of the towers. So I guess this is the third tower? I guess? I don't really know for sure. Maybe. Yeah? We'll say yes. We'll say it's the third tower. So, yeah, not a lot to say about all of it. It's going super good. Glad to be back in the tractor and doing my summer job. And it looks like, I don't know, the clouds are kind of dark and yucky, but we haven't gotten any rain in it, so we're hoping that's going to pass. And I don't know if you can see over there, probably over there's better. It's a little bit windy, but the windrows are hanging in there, so we're just going to keep going and see what we can get. So stay tuned and join us for the ride. For Sam, and I hope I didn't make too big of a mess. There's this little triangle section right here that I'm not quite sure how to get, and this little triangle section right here, and then the handline section. So I'm gonna have him come help me with that. And then there's one strip on the side of the big little pivot, sorry, where the risers are, and yeah, it's grass and it's a mess. And so anyway, hopefully I didn't cause too big of a mess for him, and he can finish this up and we'll have raking done. Stay tuned. Sorry for the wind noise, but Sam is finishing all the weird little parts that I left. I am out here moving hand lines so that they are in between the rows, so they're not going to be in the way when he comes and rakes this section or fails. So hopefully we'll need to move them again until it's time to set them up to water. But yeah, there's this string, that one. Again, sorry for the wind noise. So that one started down there, went all the way down to there, so not that bad. The other one started right there and went all the way up the hill and around the corner. I know we filmed what it looks like from inside the tractor. I don't know if we've ever really filmed what it looks like outside the tractor, so it's a little close to some of those hand lines, it feels like, from over here, but maybe over there it has way more room. But anyway, I just think that is super cool to take these two little flat windrows, turn them into one big fluffy one like that. And some of these, that section right there, which that may have been raked a couple of times, it might be a couple different, like some of these little weird triangle pieces that get raked in. But there are some of these that it's too big for me to jump over.
before, so it'll be interesting to see what it all comes out to be bale-wise, and then we can figure our tonnage. So one of the reasons that I did not feel comfortable mowing this section is the hand lines. There's this standpipe riser right in the middle of the field that Sam just did some awesome expert S-turn around that, yeah, it'll be a long time before I can ever do that. But then right over here on the very, very edge of the field is this fence, and again, I can drive down the middle, sorry, wind. I can drive down the middle of the field just fine, but you put me next to something and all of a sudden I can't drive straight, I don't know where anything is going, and I don't want to be the one that ruins the rake or takes out a fence. So, for at least a little while, this will be the part where Sam gets to finish for us. So, thank you, Sam. I don't know if Sam filmed any of it, but he had to, I don't have to, he decided to kind of go through, and apparently the first bale is always different. So you have to do a bunch of things with the setting, and then you can put it on auto and it will tell you what to do, or it will just do its own thing. But so I don't know if this is the only bale or if there's another one out there somewhere, but so far we have at least one bale, and he stopped because of just the way that the hay was. He said the moisture was low where it needed to be, and then all of a sudden it spiked, and we don't want chunks of super wet hay in the middle of the bales because that's what will mold and rot and do all the gross things. So we're gonna wait just a little bit. I don't know how long that is, but when I know, I'll let you know. As far as I'm concerned, first cutting's off to a good start. It did get sprinkled on a little bit, not today, but between Monday and Tuesday last week when we started cutting. The dark clouds that we saw earlier today passed us by and did not leave us any moisture, so yeah, so except for some wind, which is actually kind of good because as long as the windrows don't blow away, it'll help dry everything out to help me get ready for baling. Mowing and raking for cutting number 1, 2025, I'm going to say is in the books.
It's the blue tractor and baler's turn for service, and of all the weird things to wear, the prop rod, I don't know if you can tell what's prop rod or not, but anyway, is held up when the hood's up by that little bolt or stud with a nut on it. I don't know if you can see, it's worn through about halfway. All that does is sit there when it's closed and vibrate, and it's vibrated its way through that bolt that much. Kind of thought that was interesting. I guess 9,000 hours of vibrating will work most of the way through a probably 3/8 bolt. So it's raking day. As you can see, I'm raked. Brandy's taking second shift raking, so got the opportunity to hit the high ground. That's all nice and dry. To prime the baler, the first bale or two are not awesome, and basically just make sure the baler works, because it kind of stinks to work on it at 3 or 4 in the morning when you're out trying to get the hay baled. But yeah, everything tight, awesome. Built up to where I can go automatic power symbol versus manual as a hand symbol. Kind of funny chrome controls, but pressures are all nice. The one on the ground over there is misshapen. The one in the, but fairly tight looking. The one in the baler currently is fine, and I think the one here, we can ask the machine. I thought we could ask the machine. Maybe if you're smart enough, we could ask the machine. Oh, wrong button. That's fine. So it took 3 bales to get it all nice and squared away. So probably the one in the baler is the third. That one in the back there is the second. And I'll bring you back when we get to the first. Pardon the tractor driving up the hill, but there's the first one. He's just a little bit special. Still, we can pick it up. The 4x4 baler made way worse first bales. I'm kind of curious when, I probably can't see, so I can take my finger out from in front of it, when neighbor's gonna rake the, across the way, rake this morning. They came out about 4:30 and started raking. And I think that's put up by the same guy that puts this up, so it may just be a full day of raking for him. We'll see this afternoon if he gets that done or not. Maybe he feels it needs to dry more. Ours, the high spots are just powder dry, and the swales over there are too stinking green. But I feel like if I let it sit any longer, it's going to start rotting where the green was. So even after this sits and evens out up here, because there's still, well, you can see like the light green. Not that that necessarily means the hay was wet. Anyway, a lot of words to say as I was coming through here. The moisture meter that I now have on my baler, which is super awesome, was saying there was spots that were a little bit too wet. So we'll let it all dry out and get super dry and hope for a wind-free morning in the morning to get some dew on it to get it to hold together nice. Otherwise, we can still put it up, but it just ends up being a little bit drier, soggier bales, either due to my lack of knowing how to make dry bales solid, or that's just the only way I've ever. So even with my grandpa, if it was super dry with 3 stringers, they're just not going to compress like a 10% or so moisture. 8, 9, 10. Under 5 is just powder. It's 3:30 again, maybe a little bit after. The GoPro doesn't seem to do well in the dark. Really clear, really pretty morning when it started out. But day after raking, a full day of nice warm weather. By the way, the pups are super excited when it's get up early day. Full day of really warm weather with a breeze, and the hay was incredibly dry last night. And I think I've said before how I hope for a little bit of dew this morning with no breeze. No such luck. I don't know if you can hear on the microphone, but the wind's blowing. So, the only options I know are baling it now, and it's going to be put up a little bit dry. The humidity's up, but yeah, the wind's keeping anything from sticking on the hay. Or wait till it's even drier and hope for dew some other day, but then you're postponing the inevitable of having to get it off the field anyway. And with my real job, some work there is picking up that I can't avoid, and a lot of words to say. I need to just get it done, and it will be put up to where there's no mold or any other potential, but it's just not as nice and tight of bales as I would like. So here at the tractor, I'm gonna get it fired up and warmed up. Since there's nothing you can see, I will mumble in and do that. Pretty sure I've said I put the same lights as on the little red tractor on this tractor, which in some way makes me sad that this didn't get bigger lights, but I did put bigger lights on the top. Anywho, it really bright banner now. Not good for much, but anyway, it's daylight outside. So, and then a fun new discovery or something yesterday. Plug phone in, which is hard to do with one hand. One thing I was thinking is it'd sure be nice to have that where rest of my, oops, I guess you guys weren't looking, where all the rest of my stuff to look at is versus I've been using forever this little pocket that I have no idea what it's supposed to be for, but it holds my phone really well. So that may be in the future, making some sort of contraption to hold that up there. But I'm gonna find a place to stick this. We'll go open up the field and get to work. Kind of an idiot. I forgot a light. Yeah, you guys can't see a thing. I'll show you, just generally checking. Bale looks square as far as I can see. And there's my first bale from the tractor lights. Kind of make sure the baler is making baler sounds and nothing extra. There's that guy, looks fine. So I think generally speaking, baler's baling, so back to work. Yes, I could have used my phone as a light, but you know, it's a moisture meter now, so I think I might stick this up here. You might hear me talk to myself a little bit here and there, but as a kid, I grew up in my room listening to my grandpa and uncle bale in the early mornings when I wasn't allowed to go out yet. I don't know if there's any other farm kids out there who like the sound of a tractor baling. Just the rhythmic tractor grunting, as always. Made me happy. Means bales are getting made. We're registered a 6 on the meter instead of less than 5. Speaking of the beeping. So I'm pretty sure the high spots are plenty dry. We'll see. I'll probably make one pass through the swales and see the low spots in the field if it's it, and see what goes register on the moisture meter, and go from there. Brought my manual moisture meter with me, but I figured we were passing this and I'm getting a little bit hesitant to, oh, that stinks. Better go check and make sure. Well, pretty sure it's not tied. The reflectors don't show that it's not tied, but it's not even here, so, well, maybe it just popped a knot. Yeah, we'll check with the hand moisture meter, but I'm getting slugs of green stuff still, so probably gonna call it. So that guy, obviously, to actually see a slug, you'd have to be in the exact right spot, of which they usually show up pretty stinking apparent. Maybe this is just not one of the bales that had a slug in it. And that's a really, really nice firm bale. That's where I like to bale them, kind of between the 6 and 15-ish. There's a nice, wow, what's in there? It's not horrible. Just try to stay out of these swales. And then the other interesting discovery was the heavy windrows. So the smoker puts 11 windrows per track. So then when you'd go to rig 2 together, strangely 11 is not divisible by 2. And we usually end up with 3 windrows in this last inside most section of the tracks. So he was pretty sluggy the whole way around. That'll be interesting if that moisture meter on the baler is a little more. We're getting up there. A little more something than my hand one.
Good morning. So, as you already saw, Sam got up this morning about 3:30 and started baling. He had to stop because whatever was left was a little too wet to bale, so he might have to get up tomorrow at 3:30 and finish it. But I'm going to go out and try to at least stack what he's cut on top of each other, so make those little stacks of 2. So then either this afternoon or tomorrow we can bring the blue tractor and the semi or the pickup and start getting the hay off the field. So I have never been able to film the scooping up and stacking of the hay, so hopefully today I'll be able to figure out a way to do that. So stay tuned. Obviously, as we drive past this one, I am not super great at stacking them squarely, but I'll get better. And sometimes it too much moisture in the hay, in the alfalfa, and Sam's been getting up the last 2 mornings at 3:30 to go out and bale, and there's too much humidity, so it's just not drying, and there's just big wet chunks in the bales, and we don't want that because, like I said, it'll rot and mold and do all the things. That might be all the reach the loader has. That is crazy. I don't even know. I guess the big tractor could do 4 out in the field. I didn't realize it roached that high, reached that high, could reach that high. I don't know. There's some correct grammar in there somewhere. This is awesome. The other thing that's super awesome is being able to make a stack that's 6 high. So yeah, oh, I know why. It's not, it's the step deck part of the trailer. It's already taller than everything else. So yeah, that's why that had a hard time reaching. It's like, how could it go 6 high from the ground? You know, me and the math. I haven't gotten his official opinion, but I'm guessing that he's probably pretty excited that we got the loader for all of this. It definitely seems like it's doing a better job than the tractor did. So. I have not yet seen this process where you can just take and move 3 bales at a time. So this is as much for my entertainment and amusement as it is for yours. I hope you enjoy as much as I do. One day I hope to be as precise with hay spears as he is, and be able to squarely stack bales, or if not, then be able to at least maneuver them around and make them square, because right now I don't really feel like I'm good at either. That is just cool. So obviously we haven't put the accumulator on the new baler yet, and it's exactly in the way of where Sam needs to drive. But he seems to have been able to get it maneuvered around in there. I don't know if he's going to be able to do the same thing with that last stack, or what's going to happen with it for sure. So we can all watch and discover together. Oh. Looks like he's maybe has to take it off kind of at a weird angle and then set it down and get spurred up to it. So, like I said, I wish I was as skilled as he is driving machinery and picking up hay. Maybe after I've done it for, I don't know, however many years he's done it, I'll get the whole process figured out too. I do have to say, I was pretty excited that I was able to pick up a single bale in 3rd gear on the fly. Like, I didn't have to stop and adjust the forks to pick it up. I could just keep driving and pick it up while I was moving. That's a new accomplishment for me for this year. So got some new skills I'm working on this year, picking up single bales on the fly. Now I can, not on the fly, pick up double bales in the field and stack them on the trailer. So who knows what I'll be able to do by the end of the year or by next year. So it's definitely a learning process, not things that I thought I would be trying to learn at this point in my life, but I'm so excited that I'm able to. I'm so grateful for Sam and his patience and all the things. So we're driving around out there, though, it is funny because some of them are not even close to being square. Some of them I did a pretty good job with, though, so like I said, I'll keep working at it. I'll get better. But yeah, the ones that I missed by a long ways. So that's 2 truckloads and some single trips. It's a good start so far. So according to the monitor in the baler, we have 212 bales this cutting. So this is most of them, and these are the ones that we figure are dry and can stack for a while. These off to the right are the ones that are a little bit wet or have a little bit of a wet section in them. We moisture metered all of the bales, the second set of bales. The first set, according to the moisture meter while Sam was baling, were totally fine. The second set, there were parts that were too wet, so we waited to rebale those, or to bale those. And again, moisture metered everything, and those are a little bit wetter, or have a wet section in them. So as long as somebody feeds them quickly, it shouldn't be a problem. But if you try to store them for like the whole summer and feed in the winter, they might rot. But I don't think any of them are wet enough that it would start a fire or anything. So this is most of the 212. There are some down here that were just on the bottom part of the pivot. I think there's 16 down here. And then there were some that were on the top of the big pivot hill that we just tucked under the pivot and are kind of stacked on the hill up kind of over where the garden is. There's a fire up there and our neighbor's truck. So I don't know if it's an intentional fire or if it's getting bigger and potentially out of control. I can see him standing up there, but that seems big than something like a intentional, I'm just gonna burn off some weeds, but maybe I don't know anything about anything out here still, and that's just how you do things. So that's kind of cool. There's water between here and there, I'm pretty sure. So as long as it doesn't jump across that little divide and go into the other neighbor's yard, I think it'll be okay. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on that one. So anyway, ended up with 212 bales. Some of it was a little wetter than we wanted, but hopefully we can sell it to one of our customers who feeds pretty quickly, and it won't mold or rot on him. So we're just gonna keep an eye on this and stay tuned. But anyway, so as far as our first cutting, because the hay was, the alfalfa was taller and thicker and lodged and all those things that made it harder to cut. It took longer to dry. Had a little bit of rain, not big, just a little sprinkle, but then heavy dew. Just took it a lot longer to dry all the way, and there was just a lot more moisture than what we would normally want to bale, but we couldn't just leave it sitting there because then it starts to rot in the field. So learned some things we might do a little bit different for next year. Might cut a little bit sooner if possible with weather and all those things, but yeah, anyway, first cutting's done in the books, and yeah, hopefully it'll sell. We're pretty happy with the quality, and just got water started yesterday so we can get the alfalfa growing and ready for second cutting. All right, it is June 21st, the first day of summer. It is a mostly cloudy 64 degrees. Okay, so it's been cooler these last couple of days and a little bit stormy, but we're going to go ahead and open the fields and start the second cutting, and hopefully I'm getting ready to go out and rake the little pivot. Yesterday, Sam got up at 3 and came out and raked the big pivot, and then did his regular job, and then came out and baled most of the big pivot until about 11:30 last night. So it was a really long day for him, and I guess I'm not quite up to that level of farmer yet. I don't get up at 3 in the morning and do just about anything, but I got up at 5:30 and I'm out here at 6. So yeah, he wanted to rake yesterday when there was dew to help keep the leaves from falling off the alfalfa stems when he raked, and then also you do that when you bale. I don't remember doing that last year, but every year's a little bit different. You try new things and try to learn from stuff. So the wind has been blowing, not super bad like it can get out here, but it has been blowing. So apparently when the wind blows, there's no dew, which makes sense. So I guess today I'm raking even though there's no dew, so there wasn't as big of an emergency to get up early and try to do that. So like I said, it's a little after 6. We'll see how long it takes to rake the little pivot. I think it's both cool and kind of funny that Sam's like, okay, see ya, and just sent me out here. So the tractor has lights. I don't know if I'm gonna need them, but I might turn them on just for fun. And I said, I don't know how to turn the lights on. He said, well, you just flip 3 switches. I was like, I don't even know where the switches are, but those are the only 3 switches in here. They're the only switches in here, and they have the light symbols, so I'm pretty sure those are the lights. And then something with this makes the rake go, so I can't remember if it's raise or lower, but I will figure it out. So you've seen raking, so I won't probably bore you with that again unless something cool happens. But yeah, so here we go. Wish me luck. So I don't know if you can see, and maybe that's the point a little bit, but typically there's big windrows that you drive between so you can see where you're going. Right here, the hay's pretty thin and spotty. I don't really know if I'm in my windrow or not, so I'm just hoping that I'm driving in a straight line and ending up where I'm supposed to be. Oh, I think you can just right up there, you can just start to see where they kind of appear again. So I wasn't too far off, but yeah, sometimes when there's nothing to rake, it's hard to tell where you're going. I'm sure I've said before, I love each of the parts of this process. So when we are out mowing and the alfalfa is really tall and it's just that bright green, and the header just pushes it down, and then you end up with the windrows like this, and when they're first brush cut and they're all bright green and everything, and it's just so, I don't know, just so symmetrical, and they just, the spacing between them and the dark and the light contrast, and I just think it's really pretty. And then after a couple of days, a week-ish, it starts to dry and it kind of turns this lighter green. And I have to say, not only are they annoying, but I am like personally offended now every time I see a gopher mound. It's like it's mocking me or something. I have not poisoned up here yet. I did the outer rim the other day, so down along the pond and the swamp bottoms. And I did notice this morning there's a fresh badger hole out there, so we're definitely going to need to get out here and do something about the badger, because he's not doing anything about the gophers, and just making giant holes in the field. So yeah, when I'm out here and I see a gopher mound, as much as I possibly can without messing up the road that I'm trying to rake, I try to purposely either rake it or drive over it. And yeah, I'm gonna, once we get this all, well, depending on when it gets baled, and then
stacked. I am definitely going to spend a lot more time out here on the little pivot. I spent quite a bit of time on the lower part of the big pivot and the back side of the big pivot up by the road. But I haven't really been out here on the little pivot very much. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot, but the ones that there are, I want to get rid of. So I'm in first gear, so I should be able to turn around without any problems. Turning is always a little scary for me because I don't want to hit anything. But there's no pivot wheels right here, so that should help. I'm really good at either turning too soon or too late. But anyway, it looks like this isn't going to be a problem at all. So, as I was saying, each part of the process, so the mowing I think is awesome. And then now that the hay's kind of dried a little bit and it's just not that pretty green anymore, it just kind of looks like kind of dried out deadish grass, which is probably kind of what it is. Then I get to come rake and I get to turn it into these big fluffy green windrows. And then when Sam bales it, they turn into these beautiful bright green rectangles that just dot the field. Looks like something bad happened right there. So I don't know if you can rebale that or what for sure. I just wanted to share my thoughts as I was out here driving around, that each part of the process is just so pretty and satisfying and rewarding, and I don't know what the right word is, but all of those things. I just love being out here and getting to do this and goof around. And yeah, I'm about to lose my windrow again, so hopefully I'll just stay on this path. And I don't know if I've ever said, when we mow, the way that everything works out, there are, sorry, it's really bouncy right here. There are 5 windrows in every wheel track. So we rake 2 sets of 2 together, and then we have an odd man. So this one over here is going to be our odd man. So then we try to rake him into the one that I'm making right now. And it doesn't always work perfectly, so some of it kind of gets left out a little bit, but for the most part it does pretty good. And I don't know if this is the first time I did the bottom down here, but it's weird because along the edge the windrow will just disappear, and then over here where it opens back up again, it'll just start up again. So there's a lot of places where the row that I was following started and stopped, or I was following a row and then a different one appeared. So I hope I didn't make too big of a mess for Sam. What I probably should have done, instead of trying to make a continuous circle, is I probably should have just turned around at the bottoms. But it'll be fine. And I know that there's a section for sure that I'm going to have to come out with a pitchfork and just pitchfork into a wheel track, because it raked and there's no way to put it into a windrow now. So, yeah, so that is what it is. I don't know if you can see the water in the pond. Gosh, it's bouncy right here. There's water in the pond, and it looks pretty full. Hopefully we will be able to get all of this hay up off the field and get the irrigation turned back on, so we can get it watering, so it'll start growing for the 3rd cutting. We shut the water off on Thursday morning last week. It is Thursday morning of this week, so 1 week to let the field dry a little bit, get it cut, raked, partially baled. And like I said, I don't know if Sam's going to come bale this tonight or if he's going to wait till tomorrow. I will let you know when I know. And then we'll see what our total bale count is and what our second cutting haystack looks like, because it will definitely be smaller than the first cutting. I just don't know by how much. Also, there's really no way to tell other than it's probably a little bit louder in here than it was previously, but I just flipped the AC on and it is cooling the cab nicely. So thank you, Sam, for that. So I've got new AC. I've got a new joystick that I haven't gotten to use yet, but I'm super excited to test that out when I stack bales and load the trailer. So this might be the fanciest tractor we have with all its new parts and accessories that are actually working the way they're supposed to. So thank you, Sam. So it's been a pretty busy and productive little over a week. Sam got up this morning, finished baling everything. I went out on the little red tractor and helped stack, and then we went out and picked everything up, and he is stacking it right here. We do have some first cutting bales still here. Hopefully those will sell quickly. And now we've got, I think he said 83 bales from the second cutting, so quite a few less, but it had only been about 3-ish weeks, 3.5 weeks or so since the first cutting, and because of some different things with the first cutting, because it was so thick and it took so long to dry, the water was off a lot longer, so I don't know if we got as much growth as we maybe could have. I know in some places it was just insanely tall, but in other places there was hardly anything at all. I showed you when I was raking that you kind of lose the windrow because there's just nothing on the ground there. So those two are wet, and I believe there were also 2 more that we put in the stack for our customer who comes and gets our wetter than we would like hay. But otherwise, actually, I don't think those are wet. I think they're just, one of them was probably the bale that was still in the baler from the last time. And I don't know if the other one's just mostly grass and yuck from the edges, but I think this is a beautiful haystack. I like that a lot. And I hope you do too. Guess what time it is? It's been about a month, 29 days today, I think, since we last cut. So we're gonna open the field today and do the corners, which you've seen us do like 7 times. So I'm not probably gonna film a lot of it unless something cool happens while we're doing it. Here the dogs come for their exercise to chase us around and see what fun, hi Daisy dog, what fun things they can find in the field as we're mowing. So as I was saying, we're going to open the fields, do the corners, and then we'll mow the rest of it tomorrow. We're going to try something a little bit different when we mow this time. I've mentioned before there's always been an odd row when we mow, and we're going to try to change the spacing just a little bit on this cutting, so there will be, instead of 9 rows between the wheel tracks, there's going to be 10. So that'll make raking just a little bit different and mowing just a little bit different. So I might show you some of that because it will actually be something you haven't seen before, because it's something we've never done before. So stay tuned. So I told you if something different happened, I'd let you know. This is not how we usually open the field or do the corners. We are on the 4th tower and we are mowing our way down to it because as we did the hedgerows and Sam started to move the pivot, or told the pivot to start moving, it basically told him, no thank you, I'm stuck. So now we have to go unstick the pivot before we can keep mowing, and rather than driving down with the side-by-side or something and squishing a bunch of the hay, we gotta mow it anyway, so we're just gonna mow our way down to the 4th track, so, or the 4th tower. So, something different. There's something different all the time.
we just drove over from the fourth tower to the third tower because it's not that far. So hopefully we didn't squish too much alfalfa. Sam's pushing on the second tower. I wonder if it's too. Like if they're all stuck. We've never moved it this far away from the pivot stops. We did this time thinking it would be better for opening the field because it's going to be out of the way, but if it's just making so all the towers get stuck, we might have to do something different in the future. And here we are at the second tower doing the same thing. Less mud again, but apparently enough that it's not wanting to move on its own. So Sam's at the center telling it to go, and I'm gonna run the winch when it decides to. So rinse and repeat. So we're out here opening the little pivot and doing the corners where the hand lights are. And we went to move the little pivot because it's in the way of where we need to mow, and the third tower on this one is stuck. So, much like yesterday, we're gonna run to the house, get the side-by-side, use the winch to pull it out, and then continue on with our mowing. And I still haven't gotten to show you our cool new plan of trying to make 10 windrows in a wheel track. We were talking earlier this morning that we're going to do 10 on some and maybe 9 on some, and see, because we were wondering if the 10 is going to make it so that the tractor drives over too much of the hay and squishes too much of it. So we will hopefully get to show you that pretty soon. So I don't know if Sam got any video of it while he was doing it, and it might be a little bit hard to tell for sure, but between that white standpipe right there that's standing up in the middle of the field and this wheel track right here, Sam made 10 windrows, and normally there's 9. So in this wheel track there's 9, and the tractor fits in this space between them, kind of just barely, but pretty sure that the tractor is going to have a much harder time fitting through this space. So while it was a good idea and it will make even windrows in this wheel track tower set, I don't know what they're called, tower, I guess, from wheel track to wheel track. So we won't have that odd windrow when we're raking, so we'll end up with 5 windrows instead of 4 and some extra. I think quite a bit of the hay on either side of the track is going to get squished as we drive through with the tractor. So I'm not sure if it's really worth that one extra lap that the tractor has to make. So we'll see how it ends up breaking. Yeah, but anyway, he did make 10 in this tower, but again, I don't know if we'll do it again. So stay tuned, you're learning along with us. Good morning, it's Friday, and I am out raking. Sam had to trade one of his PTO days so usually he's off on Mondays and Fridays during the summer, but he had to trade a Friday for Wednesday so that he could finish mowing because of the rain on Monday. So usually I will rake most everything except for the corners and where the hand lines are. But that was what we cut first, so it's dry first and ready to be raked. So in my attempt to be helpful, I told him I would come out and I would rake whatever I could of the corners and the hand line section until it got too technical or where I thought I was not going to be able to do it. So I have raked the bottom handline corner down by our mailbox. I've raked the outside of the outer of the big pivot is all done down there by that fence. And then this little handline corner, this little bit right here, I'm gonna treat like a hedgerow and get it when I go back the other way. So now I'm getting ready to do this center section where, like, between the two pivots where the pivots overlap, which is also, there's hand lines right here, and then there's hand lines way back over there. I don't know if you can see or not. What I've learned about myself doing this, hand lines scare me a lot more than fences, or at least the fences that I've had to drive next to recently, because the windrow ends right here basically, and the hand line is right there, and the rake has to go through this space between there and there and not hit that but get all of that. So that's a little nerve-wracking and scary for me so far. I know there's some places down in the handline corner, like down by our mailbox, that I'm gonna have to go back and pick up with a pitchfork because I just didn't get close enough, and I am completely fine with that. And there's probably gonna be some spots up here that I'm gonna have to come pitchfork as well. So while it's fun and exciting, even though it's scary and nerve-wracking to learn new things, improve my skills, all of that stuff, it's also something because now I can't not do the corners and the handline part because I don't have the excuse of I don't know how to do that. So unless I just do such a horrible job, which I'm not trying to do on purpose, but I can accidentally make a mess of things really easily. So unless I do just such a horrible job that Sam figures it's easier just to do it himself than to have me come out here and make a mess, I will probably have to rake everything now, which is okay. The more I do it, the better I'll get at it, and maybe I'll get closer to hand lines and not be so scared of them, but hopefully also not hit them. But yeah, first thing this morning, so I started so there's 1, 2, 3 raked windrows. The third one that way is just the inside of the 6th tower. When I got up by the pivot to turn around up by the house and do that handline corner, one of the hydraulic hoses from the front of the tractor got caught on something, got ran over, got ripped off. So luckily it didn't seem to do any damage to the tractor. The hose needs to be replaced, and it's one that we use when we use the front of the tractor, like for a post hole digger, which I don't think we have any plans of anytime soon. But so that was kind of scary and unfortunate, and obviously it happened right on the top of the steep hill as I was trying to turn around. So yeah, so that was the start to my day, and then, you know, getting to be scared of hand lines. So it's been an interesting morning, and I feel like luckily, and like this is the last little section, so hopefully it will be completely uneventful and everything will go smoothly. So keep your fingers crossed for me and stay tuned. As if driving next to hand lines wasn't scary enough, this pass I have hand lines on both sides of me, so that's fun. And for whatever reason, these hand lines, the ones with the riser sprinkler thing on the end instead of the middle, don't like to stand up. So I'm out here trying to stand as many of them up as I can, so I can just drive through slow and scared, but they keep falling over. So as long as, because I've already raked on that side, as long as they're falling that way, I'm gonna allow it. But yeah, I don't know if they're gonna be in the way when Sam tries to bail. They shouldn't be. If the windrow is in the middle to get scooped up by the baler. He should have room. I don't know how wide the blue tractor is with its duals and stuff, but anyway. So yeah, as I turned the corner and came up here and saw, there's hand lines on both sides of me. I might have a tiny heart attack while I'm doing this, but chances are it'll all be fine. Worst case, I leave a bunch of hay in the middle of the windrows and I have to come get it with a pitchfork, but I'm gonna have to come get some with the pitchfork anyway, so yeah, as long as I don't run over and ruin a hand line, I guess I'm okay. Oh, see, here's one pointing the wrong way again. Please stay standing, please stay standing. Okay, I'm gonna walk away. All right. Let's see. I think that's all good. I have plenty of room on that side. Boy, this is nerve-wracking. Okay. But in all actuality, this is what, our third cutting. I go back to school in, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. So this may be the last weekday raking I get to do, which I feel bad for Sam when he has to do this and his regular job. But yeah, so if we can time it so we're raking on the weekend, but then I don't know if that puts us baling and stacking in the middle of the week. I don't know what the right answer is. I just know I'm trying to be helpful, so I hope it helps. So yesterday, this was all perfectly raked rows, and now you can't even tell, one, that it was ever raked, and two, where the rows even are. It's just random hay smatterings all over. And this, I don't know if you can see, the stuff that's just kind of spread out on the ground here doesn't really have any leaves left on it. They're all just on the ground. So we basically made alfalfa straw, I think. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it and what we end up doing and how it all goes. But it's kind of sad because they were really nice thick windrows, and we thought we were going to get a better cutting than we got for second cutting because there were only 80 bales on the second cutting. But I don't know what's going to happen with this. Just part of farming, I guess. So this is the little pivot that hadn't been raked yet, but was ready to rake this morning, theoretically. But you can see the hay that's on the ground is just bleached and not green. So when the rain came through it, it just washed all the nutrients and everything basically out of the hay, and I guess turned it in, like filtered it, like so it made tea, kind of. And it still has leaves on it, but it is super wet. So there is no way that this is ready to rake today. And our weather station thing said we only got an inch of rain, but the ground is just muddy. And this is our weather today. So we have right now no sun, lots of clouds, and there's no wind right now at all. So the chances of it drying quickly are very, very slim. So while we still have windrows, I don't know if they're going to be worth anything. So we will come up with a plan. Everything will work out. We talk a lot about how inconvenient it is to have our day jobs and try to do this at the same time. But honestly, right now, I'm glad that our livelihood and our income doesn't depend on this hay cutting, because we'd be hurting a little bit. So it's not awesome, but a lot of people are in a lot worse shape. So I still feel very lucky and very blessed that we're in the position that we're in. It's just inconvenient and a little bit unfortunate, but not devastating. So we came down to check the ditch. We don't need water right now, but as soon as we get whatever this ends up being, whatever we do with that, whether it's hay or compost, I don't know, we'll need to turn the pivots back on. So we came down to check. There's just so much weeds and trash just floating down the canal, and made this nice dam right here that Sam is laying on the little footbridge and trying to clean off so that it's just not clogging up the irrigation ditch. But yeah, that's crazy. That pile on the side is what he's already pulled out. So fun times. Sorry it's so loud, but it is 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, and I am out here trying to re-rake the big pivot, and then going to rake the little pivot. There's just hay scattered from wheel track to wheel track, so I'm just right now trying to drive down the middle of most of this and bring it together into a windrow. I don't know what else to do. And we're just gonna try to bale what we can. We'll clean up what's left. I don't know what the bales are gonna be like or what we're gonna do as far as selling or anything at this point. Definitely not what we expected or planned, but it luckily dried out today, so I feel comfortable going and re-raking it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, will stay dry. And Sam's gonna come in about a half an hour and just follow me and just start baling it, and then hopefully we can get it all off the field tomorrow and at least get the water back on so we can start growing for the next cutting, because the water's already been off for over a week. So between the first and second cutting, we had the water off for a while, and we feel like that's probably why the second cutting was so small, but yeah, at this point it is what it is. So we're just gonna do what we can and hope for the best. So thanks for your support and stay tuned. So while I'm out here raking, Sam's over here baling right next to me, and we just keep passing each other on every pass or so. For a little while he was ahead of me and I was following him, and then maybe for a half a second I was ahead of him and he was following me. I don't really know, but anyway, I have 2 more rows in this track, and then I have the center, which is like 2 rows. It's basically just 2 really quick circles, and then I'm heading to the little pivot, I'm pretty sure. So it's just before 8 o'clock, so this took about 2 hours, which I think is what we figured it would take. So we're on track. There are some dark clouds over there, but hopefully they'll stay over there and not bother us over here, but at least it'll be veiled. And yeah, which it's still not good to get your bales wet, but it's better than having your windrows blown completely across the field, so we'll take it. Okay, quick third cutting update. I'm starting to feel like this is Groundhog's Day and all I do is rake and re-rake and re-rake the same things. But what day is it? It is Monday. So yesterday I re-raked the big pivot and I started to rake the little pivot, and then it looked like maybe some storm clouds were coming in and we didn't want to have the same situation where the wind unraked everything we did. So we just stopped. I did like all the outside overhang of the little pivot, and then the, I guess part of one of the towers, and the overhang was too wet for Sam to bale. I think I showed you he was baling as I was raking. We kept passing each other and stuff yesterday. And so what was raked from the overhang was too wet to bale, so he couldn't bale, and then yeah, we just decided to leave it. So I got up this morning and I went out and I finished raking the little pivot, and then I came over here and all by myself took the rake off, which I was very proud of myself for doing, and had Sam put the forks on and fill it with gas. And then I went out and I stacked, or helped stack. He did kind of the house side of the big pivot and I did most of the back side of the big pivot. So we stacked it. So then he is bringing the Peterbilt and the step deck out, and with the blue tractor loading that. and unloading it down by the house. Last night when we stopped, the bale counter said that we had 60 bales. So we have 60 bales from the big pivot. We don't know what we're going to get on the little pivot. So when I finished stacking, Sam said, hey, why don't you put the rake back on and go back, because there are a couple of places, I don't think you can really see, maybe like right here, where it just didn't rake very well, or didn't rake well enough for him to bale. So a lot of it tends to be really close to wheel tracks, because the way that the wind blew, it kind of blew the windrow up against a wheel track and then it stopped. And when I was raking yesterday, it was really hard to get all of that in. So I'm going to try to kind of go around by the wheel tracks and see if I can rake some of the hay into the wheel track. And then there's also a whole part of one of the towers on the far side of this big pivot, where the hay had just spread so far that when I was trying to rake yesterday, it didn't really make it into a windrow. So I'm gonna go try to re-rake that tower. So I don't want to spend 5 hours out here like re-raking every track, but I'm gonna try to get as much of it now that the big stuff is raked. I'm gonna go back and try to get whatever's left that's big and re-rake it to either get it into a windrow that we could bale, or just an easier chunk to pick up, so we're not pitchforking, you know, an entire wheel track, because we don't have time for that. So yeah, so I'm re-raking for the 3rd time. Stay tuned. I've never noticed before, but I think it's kind of funny. Every time the plunger hits, a little cloud of dust or alfalfa leaves or something falls out from under the baler. It's just the things you notice that you've never noticed before, even though you've watched it do this a whole bunch of times. Honestly, I maybe have never been this close when he was baling, or was doing other things that I couldn't pay attention to what he was doing, so. We got lucky and didn't have any afternoon storms yet. And so we're just gonna try to hurry and bale the little pivot and get these guys off. We've got the water back on the big pivot right now, so I am so glad this cutting's over. And right now, if the rest of them are gonna be like this, I hope we don't have 5 this year. I will be more than happy to just be done after 4, but yeah, if this was the worst one and this was the worst of it, we were very lucky compared to what I'm sure some people have dealt with, are dealing with, and how it could have been. So very grateful, very blessed. Just a little frustrating, but life can be that way sometimes, especially when you're dealing with Mother Nature. So the final bale count was 106 bales off the 3rd cutting, which I think it would have been a lot more if some large portion of it hadn't blown away or just, yeah, blown around. So these are bales that were already baled when it rained. So they're stagger stacked or gap stacked like this, so the air can flow through them. And somebody said that they'll actually dry out this way. So obviously rained on hay isn't as good a quality as not rained on hay, but when it's already baled, the rain doesn't soak in that far into the bale, so usually it's just like the outside little bit, the top or the side or whatever. Actually got hit with the rain, and it's a little bit hard to tell, but I think we got less than a 1/4 inch of rain that day. It just fell kind of all at once, and then the wind made it a little bit worse. But yeah, so 106 bales isn't horrible. It's more than the 2nd cutting. We've got the pivot back on. It's been getting stuck in the track and being kind of obnoxious, but Sam put some gravel in there and hopefully it'll behave and keep making laps, and we can get this alfalfa growing again and have a 4th cutting that's less dramatic than the 3rd was. So okay, so in addition to the stuff that's stacked down by the mailbox, these greener bales are, so like anyway, you can see, there's the lighter, that's the second cutting, the greener's the third cutting. So there's those, there's the ones down by the mailbox. There is everything that's on the trailer, which I think he said was 40 bales, something like that. These two and those 3, and that should add up to 106, which it doesn't look like it, but it probably does actually, because yeah, no, that makes sense. So we have, oh, and maybe those 3, because they look greener. So we have first cutting, second cutting, and third cutting that was going to go in the barn, but at this point it's already been out in the weather and all the things that have happened to it, so it doesn't really make sense to store it in the barn. Might as well just store it outside. So yeah, we've got some hay to get rid of and hopefully we get rid of it soon. So if you know anybody who needs some hay in Eastern Oregon, send them our way. All right, so it is Monday morning. We were not able to mow the other day when we tried. I'll show you what it looks like when a swather tries to slide up or down a hill. I don't remember which direction it was going, but it was way too muddy, not enough traction, couldn't drive up the hills. So we let it dry for a couple more days, and now we're out here trying it again. There definitely seems to be some bugs. That's what that little green stuff is on top of the header. And with the rain and the hot, and I don't know for sure, there seems to be some weeds that we're able to power through and poke their way up out of it. So it's looking a little bit like first cutting, but the windrows are pretty big and thick, kind of like first cutting. So hopefully it dries well. We're not supposed to have any big weather, hopefully, for this week, and there's some potential for the weekend. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and do what we can and keep you posted along the way. So this is what it looks like in the field when it's a little too wet for the swather to drive through. This is it from the first night. This is just where
This morning's first pass.
yeah, this morning's first pass. The water piles up in the wheel track and overflows onto the field a little bit right there because it's kind of in the bottom of the swell. So the ground gets extra wet right there. And luckily,
Four-wheeling the first
yeah,
the field.
luckily the swather didn't care, or Sam had enough momentum that he could just slide through it and keep going out the other side. But
That's why we mow fast. Not really.
it's just been such a weird balance of trying to get enough water in the ground to get the alfalfa to grow, but not too much water in the ground to make it a mess when you try to mow.
And then you get an inch of rain.
Yeah. But you can see right up in here where it didn't really want to go uphill very well. And it's dried out pretty well now, but that was just a slimy, muddy mess. So we've got the corners done, we've got all the hand lines moved. Sam just opened the little pivot. So now it's a whole bunch of back and forth in circles. And so far, everything seems to be the way it's supposed to be. So we are going to keep our fingers crossed for no changes or surprises as the dogs go swimming and drinking in the wheel tracks. Oh my goodness. I don't think the video does it justice. That's just, oh my gosh. A slimy, muddy mess.
The fourth cutting is over. It was an entertaining one.
out this morning and started raking just to get a little bit of a head start because he's faster than I am. And he raked the corners last night, which I thought was really nice. He didn't necessarily do it as a favor to me, but they were dry and ready to be raked, and I was at school kind of late last night, so he went ahead and raked the corners, so I don't have to do that today. So I just get to do the big circles on the big pivot and the little pivot and the space in between the pivots, which isn't hard because there's no hand lines or anything scary like fences and things that I need to dodge. So we are in the process of raking the fourth cutting, and I don't want to say anything that's going to make anything bad happen, but it's all going appropriately so far. So keep your fingers crossed for us and I'll keep you posted. He was too fast for me and I didn't catch him on the other side of the pivot, so I walked around to the house side, and I'm gonna meet him at the top of the hill over here when he gets here in just a second. But one thing that I did want to say really quick was, so we tried to cut, I don't remember what day, and it was way too wet and muddy and he couldn't get up the hill. So we waited a couple days and then we mowed everything, and there were still some pretty wet, muddy spots. I think I showed you in one of the clips where he kind of skied down the hill or up the hill or something next to one of the wheel tracks that had overflowed with water. But yesterday when he was raking the corner down here, he took a picture, and I'll insert it right here. And I said it would be one of those funny tell me the ground was really wet without telling me the ground was wet kind of memes, because as you can see, those white things are mushrooms. So there was enough moisture in the ground with the hay sitting on top of it that we cultivated some mushrooms, which is not part of what we're trying to grow, but it was pretty wet, and those are pretty good sized for only having, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. That, well, I guess that might not be true. Maybe they were growing under the alfalfa before we cut it, but the alfalfa had only been down for about 3 days when he started to rake yesterday. So there was a lot of moisture in the ground, and we're hoping that even though most of the hay or most of the alfalfa on the ground has dried, some of the bigger pieces of the windrows still have some wet spots in it, but we're hoping as we roll it over that we're rolling it onto dry ground, because it has been pretty warm, and so the ground's had a chance to dry out and warm up a little bit. So hopefully we're rolling it on top of warmer dry ground, and that will help it dry faster. Plus it's all fluffed up now. So and I've said before, I just love the way it looks when it's freshly mowed, but I really like the way it looks as we're raking it, and we're just making these big, tall, fluffy windrows. So here comes my tractor. So I will go meet him up at the top of the hill, and I will take over raking. We're gonna call this segment Random Thoughts That Brandy Has While on the Tractor. First of all, I don't love the steep part of these hills, because not only are they steep, but sometimes you're kind of like tilted, so side hill a little bit. I'm in first gear right now, and 300 RPM on the tractor, and we're just creepy crawling up this. On all of the other hills that I've done so far, and I think Sam said that the ones that he was doing, he could stay in third at about 2000 RPM and make it up the hill. I tried that on this section, and yeah, it didn't work at all, so I had to shift down into first. So, sorry tractor if I made you work too hard before I figured that out. Second, when I'm going up these hills, I'm sure it's not, but with the rake behind us and the hill being so steep, sometimes I almost feel like, I wonder if the front of the tractor is getting a little light. Like, I don't think the tires ever come off the ground, but I find myself leaning forward and scooting closer to the steering wheel. Like, my little tiny insignificant amount of weight in relation to the whole tractor and rake is going to make any difference, but I don't know. I feel like I'm helping somehow. So those are a couple of the thoughts. The other thought I had is just how much I love this rake and what a great job it does getting all of the hay up off the field and rolling it. And it just, I mean, it looks like we came out and vacuumed it. And some people may wonder why we keep rebuying equipment that we already have. Like,
why would we buy a baler if we already have one? Or why would we buy a rake if we already have one? And part of it is, Sam likes to say, neither one of us went to farm school, so we don't really know the right way to do this. And so a lot of the equipment we bought, we either bought before we had actually tried to do any of the things out here. Like, we bought the pull behind swather before we had ever tried to cut the hay on these fields, before we realized how steep the hills were. And we bought the basket rake before we realized, again, how steep the hills were and the terrain that was out here. So as we've learned a little bit more about our area, our place, we've made some adjustments to the equipment that we have and need and want to help us be able to do what we need to do more effectively and efficiently. So sometimes we end up rebuying equipment so that we get things that work better, because unfortunately we're not getting any younger, so the easier we can make this, then the longer we can hopefully do this. Also, oh, it's way prettier in person, but there's some smoke in the air, so we've got this bright red sun. But in the iPhone picture, it just looks like a teeny tiny little dot, but in person it's giant. Anyway, random thoughts. And then there was one other one that I don't know if I can remember right now. So when I think of it, I will let you know. Stay tuned. Okay, I think I remembered what my other thought was. So I get kind of, I don't know, sentimental or emotionally attached to things. I don't know for sure what the right word is. But like, Sam will have a shirt that he hasn't worn for 10 years. But I remember when he, what we were doing when he wore it. And it's like, well, you can't get rid of that shirt because you wore it when we went on that date to, I don't know, wherever. Or whatever. Something like that. But I know he's never going to wear it again. And it's pointless to keep it in the closet. But every time I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was that time that we did, whatever. So maybe as I get older, I'll get over some of that. But, oh, this is a giant, we got to do something about this road. These ruts in our side-by-side road are getting just ridiculous. Oh, hold on, tractor. You can do it. Holy cow. Jeez. Goodness gracious. Okay, so there's that. And every once in a while, Sam talks about getting like a little bit bigger tractor, like horsepower-wise. So something maybe between the red and the blue tractor. And my first thought is no, because then I don't think we need 3 tractors. I mean, maybe we do, I don't know. And if we do, then that's fine. But if it means we have to get rid of the red tractor, the thought of that just makes me so sad, because this is my first tractor. And I love this tractor. And except for maybe not having enough horsepower to do all the things, like it can't pull the baler, but it does awesome raking, and it can't really lift 2 bales. I mean, it can, but it's tough for it, and so, you know, some of those things, but it's, oh gosh, there's a giant badger hole. Yep. So, yeah, so that was a giant badger hole. We were able to come out the other night and control that badger, and so yeah, that's nice knowing that that's not here anymore. Yeah, we controlled the badger, which was awesome. I'm just, yeah, sentimentally attached to this red tractor and can't imagine getting rid of it. So I don't know what the right answer is. If it makes it better and it makes our job easier and it gives us more options, like in case something happened to the blue tractor, we could still bail. It seems right and smart, but I love my red tractor, and it's my tractor, and it's my first tractor. So I don't know whether it's the right answer or not. I feel like if we do end up needing to get a bigger tractor or have the opportunity to get a bigger tractor, then that just means that we have 3 for a while until I'm ready to not be sentimentally attached to this one anymore. So there are no plans in the future. There is no search for a tractor actively happening, but as we've said about a lot of equipment, when you're buying things from auctions or on Facebook Marketplace, you can't really control when the inventory is available. So if something comes up and it's a good deal, sometimes you just have to jump on it even though it's not really what you were thinking or planning for that moment, because it won't necessarily be available in a week or a month or however long when you're closer to wanting it. So sometimes you just got to take advantage of the deals when they're there. So like I said, there's no active searching, no plans for a new tractor, but sometimes the universe just has a way of presenting things to you, and that you got to take advantage of it when it happens. Also, because of school starting and because of weather and because the alfalfa was so tall, I have not had a chance to be out here trying to manage and control gophers, and they have been very actively taking advantage of that fact. I don't know if we've talked about it before yet or not. Our plan, we think we're going to do it in the fall and maybe the spring, is to come drag harrow, like spring tooth and drag harrow the fields and just kind of scrub them down and get them as flat and smooth as we can. Fall and early spring, we'll be able to kind of keep up on the gophers a little bit better, and then drag harrow it, spring tooth and drag harrow it again in the spring before the alfalfa really starts growing, and then just hit it again really hard next year to where maybe we can get a handle on these guys and make a little bit of a dent. If I have any more random thoughts to share, I'll let you know. So stay tuned. So I finished raking this morning, and now Sam is out baling this afternoon. He's going to be baling it and the corners because they were mowed earlier than everything else. They got raked yesterday, and typically it's thinner, lighter hay. There's less hay. I don't know. It dries out faster than some of the bigger windrows. So he's got, I can't remember what he said that was. It scared me the first time I saw it. I thought something had exploded, but it's the baler doing something. I just don't remember what it's doing. So typically the corners and the windrows dry sooner. So he's kind of getting a head start baling those and using it as a test, I think, for maybe what some of the rest of this is moisture-wise. I don't know what he's doing right now, if he's just trying to get the baler to drop that bale over here, or if it's too wet. I don't know what he's doing. This is fun to watch. Sorry. I'm filling the pig's water, in case you're wondering what this sound behind me is. So, hopefully by getting the corners and the windrows done, it'll save him a little bit of time in the morning and kind of give him a little bit of an idea of what the moisture is right now. Because like I said, I raked all this. He raked a lot of it last night. This hedgerow that he's on right now, I kind of put back together this morning. I started about 7 and I think I was done by just before noon, I feel like. So it helped a lot that he had gone out and raked what he had yesterday and got started this morning. So very grateful for that. But that's a good looking bale. And I think if it were too wet, he would probably stop. So yeah, we'll just see what he does, and then we'll check the hay tonight. The bigger windrows, kind of the heavier stuff that we know usually stays wetter.
has no issues. So we'll keep you posted. Well, we didn't make it super far baling yesterday. Sam got a couple bales done, but as he got past the hedgerows and was checking some of the hay, some of it's up to 20%. And while it's not a lot, if you get that clump in the middle of your bale, it's gonna mold. So we really don't want to make moldy bales, so we decided to hold off and wait. But it's now drizzling lightly with the potential for more drizzle later today. So it shouldn't be such a heavy rain that it leaches all the nutrients out of it, but we were really hoping to be able to have a really good cutting that didn't have any weather issues. So we'll just keep waiting. And the other problem, frustration, something, is that highs this next week are only supposed to be in the mid 70s. So we're not gonna have that really warm, sunny days to help dry everything out. It's just gonna kind of stay like this. So we don't want the hay to lay on the ground for a week either. So, like I said yesterday, being that neither one of us went to farm school, we don't really know how to do this the right way. We're just trying to make the best of what we can with what we know. And yeah, so not the end of the world, but also not what we were hoping for exactly. So we're kind of on pause right now for baling, and we'll just wait, see what the weather does, see what the hay does, and when it's ready, we'll be ready. So we did get a little bit of rain yesterday. I think it was like 0.08 of an inch according to the little weather station thing we have out here. And when we checked the hay last night, before the last section of rainstorm that came through, the top of the hay was pretty dry. The part on the ground was a little bit wet, but not too terrible bad, except for the rows right next to the wheel tracks, the outside row next to the wheel track where we turn the two into three, just because they're thicker and the way that all is. So we thought about maybe turning just those rows over so that whatever was on the bottom would be on the top or closer to the top and could maybe get some sun and a little bit of breeze if we get one of those today, which right now we don't seem to have. So, but because of the overnight rain and then just the humidity, everything is a little bit wet. So we're gonna hold off on that. So we're on, I don't know what day of the fourth cutting at this point. Sam came out and baled the corners in a little bit while I re-raked most of the 6th tower. And now he's taking over raking, so he's gonna finish re-raking, I guess, yeah, raking again, the big and little pivot. So what we're hoping is that it's going to roll the hay over so that what was on the ground and was slightly wet is now going to be facing up so that the sun and everything will dry it. It's not super wet, but it's wet enough that we don't want to put it in a bale. So hopefully by rolling it over, getting the stuff that was on the bottom, on the top, the sun and whatever little bit of breeze will dry it out, and then we can finish baling it tomorrow. There might be a tiny bit of rain coming potentially Tuesday night, but we're hoping that if it's baled, it won't be too much. It won't be that much rain, and if it's in a bale, it won't get very far into the bale, so it won't make the hay moldy. And so, as you can see, it's about 7:30 at night. I don't know if you can tell that from the sun. As you can see, the sun is slowly working its way down. It's about 7:30. Sam's thinking he should be done sometime between 11:30 or 12. So I feel bad for him for a late night, and then however long it takes to bale. But So that's where we are today, is re-raking the hay, rolling it all again, and giving it hopefully what it needs to dry. The hay itself is looking really good. Lots of nice leaves, and it's really green and pretty. So far, that's good. Just keep your fingers crossed and hope that it can make it into a bale that way. So we'll keep you posted. Stay tuned. I can hear him, but I can't see him for sure. So it's been 11 days since we cut the hay, and still on the ground. Sam is out raking it for the third time. So we raked it, it wasn't quite drying. We raked it again. I don't know if you can see kind of right out here. We did get some wind and just the tiniest bit of rain the other day. So it unraked part of it, but not all of it, like in the last cutting. So he's gonna go out and try and straighten the rows back out a little bit, maybe turn it over because the stuff on the bottom still hasn't dried all the way. But we're kind of at that point now where it's a weird balance between raking it to help it dry, but not doing too much to it because some of the leaves are starting to fall off. And we don't want to just end up with alfalfa sticks again, like we did in the last cutting. So this is the longest we've ever had hay just sitting on the ground, but because of the little bits of rain and then so much humidity and just moisture in the air, it just isn't drying. And every day or so, Sam will go out and try to bale, and parts of it will be fine, and then it'll just get to a part where it's just this kind of wet slug in the middle of it, and if we leave that, then it's going to mold or rot, or if you stack it, potentially catch on fire. And we don't want to sell customers rotten hay, and we don't want anybody's haystack, including our own, to catch on fire. So it's just been kind of a wait and see and try to do the best things that we can and know how to. And again, we never went to farming school, so we don't know what the right answer is, but here we are 11 days later, and Sam's out raking for the third time. So that's kind of where we are with this fourth cutting. It seems to be the never-ending cutting, and yeah, so we'll keep you posted. So here we are on day, I'm not even sure what. I think it's been over 2 weeks since we mowed. We've raked and re-raked and raked and raked again. And I don't know if you can tell, it's a little dark. We just had a sprinkle roll through. And even though we're not getting, so far, not getting large amounts of rain when the little showers that are coming through, it's enough that it's keeping the part of the hay that we're wanting to dry, the stuff that's down at the bottom, it's keeping it from being able to dry. And then when it's not raining, there's still so much humidity that it's almost like the hay is absorbing more moisture. So when we got home last night, Sam raked for about an hour and then went to do a section, like a test section, and he said that the moisture meter on the baler was showing that there was more moisture than, I don't know, Friday or whenever he tried to bale the last time. So you can kind of see, I mean, there's places where a lot of it's been baled. We're figuring the stuff on the tops of the ridges should be drier. This stuff, you know, down over here in the swells and stuff obviously is going to have more moisture, so that's kind of what we're waiting to dry. It right now still has some leaves on it, but every time you move it, the leaves kind of start to fall off. So we're just really trying to not, and we don't want moldy hay, but we don't want sticks of stems with no leaves on them. And then because it's been cooler and a little, like a pretty consistent little bits of moisture, the new alfalfa is taking off and growing pretty well. And this is like mid, I don't know, shin height, I guess. This little guy right here, I mean, not all of it is that tall, but it's starting to grow back. And so where the windrows are laying on it, it's obviously keeping the new alfalfa from growing back. So we don't know. Like at this point, we just are kind of at a loss of what do we do? What's the right thing? I mean, I don't know if you can tell. The sun is trying to poke through, or it was a minute ago, but a couple minutes ago it was raining while it was sunny. Not large amounts of rain, but enough moisture that it's not drying the hay enough. I might just end this video because who knows how long this is going to go on, but I will definitely keep you guys posted if we ever do get to bale it, and to let you know what the bales looked like and what our final bale count was. But I mean, at this point, is it just going to have to stay on the ground until the alfalfa around it's too tall and we'll just do a 4th, 5th combined? Or I don't know. We really don't know at this point. Every time we make a plan, it seems like it just is the wrong thing. So we're learning, and there's a lot of things you can't control, like rain and humidity and sun and all those things. But like I said, we just want to, if we were feeding this to our own cows, we probably wouldn't care as much. But when you're trying to sell it to other people to feed their animals, you want it to be the best quality so they feel like they're getting good value for their money, and it's actually helping feed their animals, not selling them something that's rotten and moldy. I don't know. I mean, maybe you've gone to the store and bought a flat of strawberries or something, and there's one in the middle that's moldy, and it's just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of is, well, it's gross, but it kind of just ruins the experience. I went to Walmart, I don't know, last weekend and bought a 3-pound bag of potatoes, and there was one in the middle of the bag that was completely squishy and moldy and rotten, and it's just gross. And if that was a local farmer that I'd bought that from, I would probably never go back to them again, or not be I would try somewhere else first, I guess. But we don't want to be that guy. So anyway, a lot of words to say. That's just kind of where we are right now, and we'll just keep trying and hope for the best and keep you posted. I think I say it every time. I really wish you guys could smell this hay. This hay smells amazing, even though it's probably a little wetter than it's supposed to be, or parts of it are a little bit wetter. So these are all of the test bales that Sam has done so far. According to the bale counter, I mean, there's some still in the field, but I think that we have baled 60 bales so far. And like I've said several times, he'll be going along and everything's great, the moisture's perfect, and then he hits this spot where it's just a wet, he calls them green slugs, but it's just a chunk of really wet green hay that's going to make a slug in the middle of the bale that is too wet. So he's kind of gap stacked it a little bit so that hopefully air can get through it and can dry while it's sitting here in the barn instead of super tight stacking. Yeah, so this is this is our test pile. Not horrible looking hay. You know, there's quite a few leaves right here in it and stuff, so it's good stuff. There's just, if we could get a moisture meter in it far enough, you know, this would probably be 5 or 6, and then all of a sudden there'd be a chunk that's 20, 30, 40, which, you know, 20 isn't horrible, but when you want it to be around 15 or less, 20 is more than 15, so it definitely doesn't fit that criteria. So anyway, this is kind of where we're at. It smells good. It looks pretty. If I were a cow, I'd probably want to eat it. And if we could find people who are ready to feed right now, it wouldn't be a problem at all. It's just if we were to store it over the winter, it would probably just sit here and mold. And again, I don't know how common it is. I've heard of haystack fires, but I don't know how wet it really has to be. But when you put a lot of little wet pieces in the middle together, I know when I've cut open some of the bales that we put up for the pigs that we knew were too wet, when you get to that middle part where it molded, the hay is hot. So I can see where it would make enough heat to catch on fire, and I don't want that to happen in our barn or in anybody else's barn. So maybe we're being ridiculous worrying about little chunks of moisture, but for our little bit of experience that we have at this point, I'd rather be overly cautious than not and have something happen. So, all right, so this is the 4th cutting so far. We'll see if it ends and when and how much we end up getting from it. So, okay, so update on the never-ending cutting. Yesterday afternoon about 1 o'clock, we decided we were gonna rake everything again and then give it an hour or two to try to get the stuff that was on the bottom that had gotten turned onto the top to dry.
and then we would come bale. But what we found, I raked the little pivot first, and when Sam went out and checked it, the stuff on the top was dry, but the stuff on the bottom was wet already. So I had just finished the big pivot, so he came and started baling the big pivot while I went and re-raked the little pivot and then baled the little pivot. So there are some places where, as he was driving along, the moisture meter said that the moisture was too high, but we just figured at some point you got to get it off the field. So we just had to kind of bite the bullet and bale it. There's not a lot that's too wet, hopefully, and the chunks that are wet aren't huge. So then last night, we got a little bit of rain overnight, but when you look at the ground, it doesn't look wet, so I don't think it like soaked. I think it was just more of a brief light shower. I don't know. There is rain in the forecast, and so then here's kind of one of the problems. We would like it to dry out a little bit more, but as long as it's sitting on the green alfalfa, it's just soaking up moisture from the ground. So we're hoping to get it off the ground and onto dirt somewhere, so we can either stack it with space between it or turn it on its side maybe and let the part that was on the ground get some air and dry out a little bit, and then stack it for real somewhere. According to the bale counter, the final count was 146 bales, which would have been a really good cutting if it hadn't sat on the ground for 3 weeks and all the raining and soaking up moisture and all of that stuff. So yeah, I just don't understand how people can do this for their living. So just for, I don't know, easy math for my head, over 146 bales, if we could sell it for $125 a bale, which I think is what we did second cutting for, versus selling it for like $55-ish a bale, which is I think what we were selling the sticks from the third cutting for. Over 146 bales, that's $10,000. So that's a huge amount of money. And like I've said many times, we are so fortunate that right now we're still just trying to kind of figure this out. And sorry, it's starting to rain, so I'm gonna move to go feed the pigs really quick, so then maybe I can help in the field. But anyway, that's a huge amount of money. We're very fortunate because this isn't our primary source of income. If this were our primary source of income, we would have 4, maybe 5 cuttings to make all of our money for the whole year. If my boss came up to me and said, oh, by the way, we're gonna pay you $10,000 less this year, I don't think I could do that. I don't know that I would want to keep doing that. So I don't know how people do this. Like, is this a feasible option even? And like I said, hopefully by the time we get to that point, we'll have other options so that there's things that we can also do to kind of help make money in the winter, side jobs, contract work, something to make all your money in 4 months out of the year. So even though the third cutting had less bales, to sell the majority of it for half or less than what hay is typically going for, just because so much of it was sticks and things, and then having the fourth cutting also be anyway, it's just, it's kind of scary, and it's sad that there's so much that's out of your control that affects so much of your livelihood and things. So hopefully, hi kitty, hopefully when we get to that point that we decide to make this our full-time life, we'll have some things figured out. I guess we'll have a little bit more flexibility in our schedule. So maybe we could have mowed on a different schedule, raked on a different schedule, and avoided some of the weather, but there were some fields around us that had hay down when that first, like before we even cut, the storm that we were waiting until it had passed before we cut, they had cut that week before and had hay on the ground, and it just got drenched with rain. So I know weather's unpredictable and all of the things, and farming is unpredictable, and there's just things you can't control, and you just do the best that you can. It's just something I did that one cutting can make so much of a difference. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for following along with us and your support and all of the things. So again, we are so blessed and so grateful, but also just kind of shocked and stunned a little bit. I guess those are kind of the same things. But anyway, so just leave the gate alone. Hey, I'll get to you. Hold on. Anyway, so yeah. Okay. So we ended up with 146 bales. Hopefully some of them are decent. At least 60 something of them are in the barn. And they honestly probably have less moisture in them than some of these out here. So maybe we would have been better off if we just would have baled initially instead of trying to wait for everything to dry more. Again, live and learn. And just because it worked once doesn't mean it'll be the same next time. Probably we'll have a 5th cutting, probably, just to make it so the alfalfa is not too tall in the spring. Depending on weather conditions, forecasts, things, you want to give the alfalfa about a month before it freezes, I guess, to kind of prepare itself for winter. So we probably have, here you go, buddy. Oh, go, buddy. We probably have 3-ish weeks of irrigation left, and then that'll be off for the year. So I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of all a conundrum at this point, but we will keep you posted as we figure it out. And again, we really appreciate your support and well wishes and encouragement. So thank you. So I ran into the bird poo shop really quick because I was up feeding the pigs and the rain decided to get real about it. So this is now what we have happening. And yeah, so I mean, you kind of just, at this point, you just have to laugh, because what else are you going to do? Sam said, you know, do we even bother at this point, because putting the one that's wet, that's been sitting on the ground, that the bottom is now wet, putting it on top of the one that is now wet from the rain isn't going to help anything. So I think we're going to head out to the little pivot where they were already super wet and slimy, so those aren't going to matter. We can let these sit, soak up some water, and then maybe at least the tops will dry. I don't know. At this point, I just don't even. What's the right answer? What do you do? Yeah. Anyway. I love this whole, I mean, if I just take a step back and not think about the money part of it or anything, because again, just the irony of it all. Like we keep trying, and we watch the forecasts, and we make these plans, and then the rains come or the wind comes or whatever. What are we doing wrong? How do we do it right? how, I don't even know. So, again, thank you for following along, and hopefully you can laugh with us and commiserate with us all at the same time, and know that this too shall pass and everything will be fine in the end. And we are so fortunate and so blessed, and this is just a tiny little speed bump in the whole road of learning how to farm and making this our life. So I just kind of want to clarify, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm just whining and complaining. It's really more just trying to process the whole thing and understand and learn from it. Sam told me there wasn't any point in going out back because, one, with the rain on the windshield, it's really hard to see and the ground's slick and all the things. So he's was just gonna stack those bales back there. He thought there were only probably less than a dozen. But as he's getting back there, so the problem with those is there were sections that the moisture meter was pretty consistently at 30, which is way, way too high, and way higher than what is even in the barn when we thought it was too wet to bale initially. So he was gonna stack it kind of back in the back where we had some kind of already trash bales from, I think, our first year. And then he thought that maybe we could offer it to our neighbor who has some cows, that maybe they could just throw it out on the ground right now and the cows could at least mumble through it and start eating it before it has a chance to rot too much, which I would much rather have it go to some, like, a useful purpose than just sit there and rot. So if he can put it on his field and his cows will eat it right now, then that makes me feel better that it's not a total waste, even if, like I said, even if we just give it to him for free, it's going to a good cause. So I don't feel bad about that at all. It just dawned on me as I was out raking the little pivot, the field, our neighbor's field right next to us, they were out swathing yesterday. So all of that hay that is fresh cut is sitting on the ground and got all this rain on it. When we were driving to Ontario yesterday, there is a couple of fields on Highline and on Holly that they cut their hay a few days ago. So some of it I think had already been raked and some of it was waiting to be raked. So we're not the only people in this situation. It's not that we, are complete novices and don't know what we're doing and we're just doing it wrong. There's a lot of people around us that have been doing this for a very long time that are in the same situation. So I guess that makes me feel a little bit better in that it isn't necessarily an us issue. It's just sometimes there's bad luck in farming. And I guess to further accentuate that point, a couple years ago when we were rotating out the alfalfa and we did wheat, I think we were selling the wheat for between $6 and $7. I think they do it by the bushel, maybe, is how they pay for wheat, or by the pound. I don't know. I feel like there was a bushel thing in there somewhere. Anyway, so our contract was that we were getting paid between $6 and $7 a bushel. And Sam just got a text because we're still on the email, text, whatever, for the prices of corn and wheat, just for our curiosity. But anyway, last, I think, Friday, so just 2 days ago, the price of wheat is $4 a bushel. So again, how do people do this as their primary income? I feel horrible for anyone that has to try to survive doing things that are so out of their control. But I'm sure that there's great years too, and maybe that's just what you have to do. It's just like anything else. You just try to save up when it's good so that you have a nest egg for when it's horrible. But yeah, again, we have a lot to learn and I am excited about the learning process. I'm also a little bit taken back by the process. I hope it didn't sound like I was complaining. That was not my intent. It was just shock and confusion. So again, thank you for all of your encouragement, all of your support. I love hearing how you guys do things and how it works for you, because
the more information we have, the better equipped we are to do this better. So anyway, thank you. It took 21 days, a full 3 weeks, but we have all of the fourth cutting hay off of the field. The pivots are back on, and we're gonna see what happens. And yeah, we're a little leery of doing a fifth cutting, but we'll, like I said, we'll see what happens. But this has been quite an adventure, this cutting. Well, actually, the last 2 cuttings. But yes, so here we are. No fourth cutting on the field anymore, and the water's back on. So okay, well, that sums up the review of the 2024 and 2025 hay seasons. I'm gonna get out of this wind before I blow away or before a tree falls on me. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.